people. The UN, Save the Children, the Norwegian Refugee Council, Christian Aid, humanitarian organisation after humanitarian organisation, international. What have they all got in for Israel? Why would they all be lying about you?
Because they're all getting their numbers from the same source.
Right. So they're all wrong and your government is right.
No, it's not that they're all wrong. It's that the source for their numbers are coming from the Hamas propaganda.
Well, Save the Children, which is operating in Gaza, has got clinics in Gaza, have found that in the first 2 weeks of August, 61% of pregnant women and new mothers screened at their clinics have been found to be malnourished. Are they wrong?
I'm not saying there's no food insecurity in the middle of a war.
A famine has now been officially declared in Gaza. And yet again, the world is being forced to confront a reality that far too many leaders want to brush aside. Today, Louis Goodall sat down with Flo Hassan to discuss the Gaza starvation crisis, and what unfolded was one of the most telling exchanges we've seen so far. This isn't just about politics. This is about food, survival, and whether governments are willing to take responsibility when confronted with undeniable human suffering. And as you'll see in this discussion, the deflections and excuses tell you everything you need to know. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
UN report saying that famine has been confirmed in Gaza City and its surrounding area for the first time. We're joined now by Fleur Hassan Nahum, former Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem, Israel's Special Envoy for Trade and Innovation. Ms. Hassan Nahum, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon on LBC. What is your reaction to this report?
Well, it's interesting how many times we've been on the brink of so many things, and I have a long memory. On November 2023, Gaza was on the brink of running out of fuel, except that was a lie. In 2024, March 2024, there was another report on an impending starvation that never happened. A few months back, if you recall, there was another report that 14,000 babies were going to die within 24 hours for lack of food, and that turned out to be a lie. And the reason why you can't rely on any of these reports is because they're all based on data coming from a terrorist group. That
well, why don't you allow journalists in? Why doesn't your government allow journalists in?
That's a great question. I'm not a war strategist, but what I would say is that I think that the war, the way that we prosecute the war, would be very different if we knew that there were journalists there being taken by Hamas as human shields. It would change everything. And that's the reason.
It's the first conflict in the history of the world where journalists haven't been allowed in.
I'm sure that that's not the case.
No, it is the case.
Everything. You know, I just heard somebody else just said to me that somebody in this fake body that's just done this report said...
What do you mean it's a fake body? It's a UN body. What are you talking about?
No, well, the UN are employing...
Isn't it weird? Ms. Hassan Nahum, isn't it weird?
Well,
why are all these... No, let me just put a different question to you.
I can tell you this. Somebody just quoted from that report saying that this has been the only famine in the Middle East. Well, these people obviously don't get out much because right now in Yemen, there's a huge famine with people actually dying of starvation. And the same in Sudan.
Ms. Hassan Nahum. Why is it that all of these people, the UN, Save the Children, the Norwegian Refugee Council, Christian Aid, humanitarian organisation after humanitarian organisation, international, what have they all got in for Israel? Why would they all be lying about you?
Because they're all getting their numbers from the same source.
Right. So they're all wrong and your government is right.
No, it's not that they're all wrong. It's that the source for their numbers are coming from the Hamas propaganda.
Well, Save the Children, which is operating in Gaza, has got clinics in Gaza, have found that in the first 2 weeks of August, 61% of pregnant women and new mothers screened at their clinics have been found to be malnourished. Are they wrong?
I'm not saying there's no food insecurity in the middle of a war. There's a war going on, a war we didn't start, let me remind you.
But a war that your government continues to prosecute against the wishes of many of its own people.
It would be all over if the 50 hostages came home. Why isn't the pressure being put on them?
Are you saying that this is the only way that your government could conduct this war, bringing Gaza City to the brink of famine?
Gaza City is not on the brink of famine. There's been, like I told you, there's been 20 brinks in the last 2 years, and you're all basically...
Well, this isn't brink. This isn't brink. They're saying it's there now.
Well, we're all parroting the propaganda of a terrorist group. Yes, you can snigger all you want, because after the reports come out and after they are discredited,
but these humanitarian organizations are there now.
Nobody actually goes bad. The humanitarian organizations, for example, UNRWA, that employs Hamas, terrorists. When Sinwar, one of his tunnels was found, they found an UNRWA card next to all of his effects.
Your
so
government...
let's be honest here. UNRWA employs terrorists. Seven of the butchers of October 7th.
You think it's okay that 61% of pregnant women are malnourished in Gaza?
I think
you don't think your government has any moral responsibility towards those women?
Unfortunately, we left Gaza in 2005 and we left it in the hands of Hamas in order to rule their own people, to create this Palestinian state they say they wanted, and they turned it into a terrorist base. They attacked us from 2008 with rockets into our sovereign territory.
And now 60% of pregnant women are malnourished.
You don't know that number.
I do know that number. Save the Children has confirmed it. They've got clinics in Gaza. I'm going to believe them over you.
All right. Save the Children get their numbers from Hamas.
Right.
Save the Children, why nobody is distributing the food that actually is...
It's just weird that everyone's got it in for Israel. Everyone else is wrong. Everyone else is wrong.
Me, but you really don't want to hear because you also have an agenda. And so because you have an agenda, you use the sources that actually confirm your agenda. And if you want to just...
You don't have an agenda, of course. Okay, Fleur Hassan Nahum, their former Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem.
And here's the thing. You don't need to be a war strategist to allow journalists in. That's not a military tactic. That's not some classified maneuver. It's a simple decision that has always defined the difference between transparency and cover-ups. Think about it. Journalists were present in some of the bloodiest and most chaotic wars of the last century. They were there in the Balkan Wars, reporting from the front lines. They were there in World War I and World War II, capturing the devastation for the world to see. They were in Vietnam. Their coverage so raw and powerful, it shifted public opinion in America itself. They were on the ground during the Gulf War. They were embedded with US forces in Iraq and Afghanistan. And today, they are still reporting from Ukraine under Russian bombardment. In every one of those conflicts, governments, whether democratic or authoritarian, had to tolerate cameras and journalists documenting what was happening. So why, all of a sudden, is this war in Gaza the exception? Why is this the one battlefield where outside witnesses are shut out? What could possibly be so different here, unless the fear is not about strategy, but about exposure? Unless the real danger isn't tactical, but political? And when we zoom out, the excuses collapse even further. A famine has been officially declared in Gaza. That isn't speculation. That isn't rumor. That is the conclusion of international bodies, aid groups, and on-the-ground reports. Over 80% of Gaza has already been destroyed, entire neighborhoods wiped out, infrastructure reduced to rubble, families displaced with nowhere left to go. And the death toll, almost or even beyond 100,000 lives lost, numbers so staggering they are hard to even process, yet they are brushed off with a wave of the hand as if they don't matter. So when Israel insists that every aid group, every humanitarian organization, every journalist who dares to question them is simply wrong or lying, what does that say? Is the United Nations lying? Is Save the Children lying? Is the Norwegian Refugee Council lying? Are the clinics treating malnourished pregnant women in Gaza just making up numbers? To accept that narrative, you would have to believe that the entire global humanitarian community suddenly woke up one morning and decided to launch a coordinated smear campaign. It's absurd, it's insulting, and more importantly, it's dangerous, because while the arguments drag on, people continue to suffer. At the end of the day, this is about accountability. This is about a government refusing to acknowledge what the rest of the world sees clearly. And the harder they deny it, the more transparent the truth becomes. The only ones spinning here, the only ones twisting facts, are the very leaders pretending they are victims of some global conspiracy. The famine is real, the destruction is real, and history will remember who tried to sound the alarm and who worked overtime to silence it. Until next time, this has been The Whip Line. Thanks for tuning in.